Hey y'all, this video will be on the topic of incest. I guarantee some of you will say, well, that's very progressive for you to say all that stuff. And others of you will say, don't give us rules, we don't like rules. Okay, whatever. So, most people think that incest is a sin. You should not be intimate in any way with someone who's blood related to you. If you share blood, they're a blood relative, cousin, parent, child, sibling, whatever. Anybody who shares your blood, it's common knowledge. The Bible says the law is written on our hearts, so you're not supposed to be sexual with them in any way, shape, or form. Here's the reason why we all think that. Because say cousins hook up, become husband and wife, and have kids. Say a brother-sister do. Say father-daughter do. Say mother-son do. Usually, the offspring that they produce will either have autism or Down syndrome. Everybody knows that, as far as I know. So that's why we all think, okay, that must mean that those kind of relationships are off limits. Because it's kind of like God's cursing the offspring, the children of those relationships. Therefore, it seems like those relationships are off limits. If someone's blood related to you, you're not supposed to be sexual in any way, regardless of their age, their gender. Obviously, you shouldn't be gay, but say it's an opposite sex heterosexual relationship. In my opinion, and in most people's opinion, there should be zero sexual intimacy between two people who are blood related. Everybody knows that. Of course, I've always heard this rumor my whole life that there's kissing cousins in the South. So I guess like in the South, for whatever reason, incest is more acceptable between cousins. And I guess you could take that to mean people in the South maybe think all forms of incest are okay. Anyways, I was just thinking about in regards to porn. If you watch porn and you feel guilty about it, you shouldn't do it. There's a verse, it's somewhere in Romans, I think it's Romans 11 or 12. He says, he's talking about people eating meat sacrificed to idols. He says, if it feels like a sin to you, don't do it. But if you feel okay with it, it's a matter of conscience. If you feel okay with it, then it's okay for you. And that's what I would say about porn. If you feel like it's a sin and you feel guilty, don't do it. But if you feel like it's okay, then whatever. Because the Bible does not address watching porn. And then same for incest. The Bible doesn't really address it. There's one case where David, a half-brother and half-sister were intimate, but it was rape. And you do kind of get the feeling like that was wrong, but then she's like begging her brother to marry her because he raped her, which makes you think like, okay, like that would have been okay. They were half brother, half sister, but she thought he should marry her. Anyways, there are not any verses that explicitly talk about incest, family, intimate relationships. You know why? I think because God was like, I don't even want to talk about that. But like I said, the same rule for porn. If you feel guilty about any intimate relationship that you have, if you feel like it's wrong, then don't do it. It's a matter of conscience. If you think it's fine, then I guess it's fine for you. Because there aren't any verses that explicitly say, do not be sexual or intimate in any way with your blah, 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 and listing all the different relationships, all the different family relationships. So it's a matter of conscience. It's what you think is okay. Is there an absolute truth when it comes to porn or incest? No, not really. I've read the whole Bible. I know the whole Bible. The Bible never talks about porn. The Bible never talks about incest. It talks about adultery. If you're married to someone, thou shalt not commit adultery. But what qualifies as adultery? Is it just a man and a woman are living together, so they're basically married, especially if they have a kid together, they're basically married, but the man gets somebody else pregnant? That's usually what adultery is. If the man runs off and gets other women pregnant, that's officially adultery. So, does that mean that any other sexual activity that the man engages in, that's not adultery? I don't know. It's a case-by-case basis. You know, ultimately it's a matter of conscience. What is the woman okay with? What is the man okay with? Bottom line, if you feel guilty whenever you do something, don't do it. If you feel like it's okay and God will give you grace based off of your situation and all the surrounding data that God will use in judging your case and your situation and your family. If you feel like God will give you grace, then fine. Amazing grace, right? God has amazing grace. My ex said one time, I don't know if I'll make it to heaven. And I said, well, I don't know what God's willing to have grace for, because he watched porn a lot, I think, our whole 7 years of marriage. And I don't. Everybody could say that to anybody else. I don't know what God's willing to have grace for. For yourself, for people that you know. I don't know. I'm not the judge. No human is the judge. Only God is the judge. What is God going to judge? None of us really know. Other than the 10 Commandments, none of us really know. Anyway, so like I said, if you feel guilty doing something, don't do it. If you don't feel guilty, then whatever. But I feel like in cases of intimacy, both people have to not feel guilty, or else they shouldn't do it. If one person feels guilty, the other person should say, okay, I'm sorry that you feel guilty about this. We can stop. You know? Makes sense? Both people who are intimate with each other should not feel guilty about what they're doing. If either of them feels guilty, they shouldn't do it. Make sense? Does that make sense for y'all? But yeah, I mean, literally, the Bible never talks about incest. There's one case where the Ammonites, ironically, were started by two women raping their dad. They got him drunk, and then he got them pregnant. And that was the beginning of the Ammonite race. It was the race of the Jews. Two daughters raped their dad and got him drunk. Was that condemned? Did God condemn them for doing that? I don't know. The story is that they're out in the middle of the wilderness and the only man around was their dad, and they both wanted to get pregnant. But the Bible never really says that that was a sin or that that wasn't okay. So, anyways, there's weird situations like that. Overall, the Bible doesn't address incest, I think, because, I don't know, maybe God didn't want us to feel overly guilty about certain situations. But I think most people just know, like, intrinsically, the law's written on our hearts. Instinctually, you know, you shouldn't be sexual with anyone who has your blood. Those people should be off limits. There's plenty of fish in the sea. I've always been able to find people I'm not blood related to. Anybody should be able to, especially with online dating. You can always find someone you're not blood related to. Always. Anybody can find somebody that they're not blood related to. So if you're currently engaged in any type of incest, try to just keep your relationships to someone that's not in your family. Because overall, I think that it is condemned, and you should be careful, and you should only be in intimate relationships with non-relatives. And good luck to you. Get online. Find someone you're not blood related to. Have fun. God bless y'all. God bless. Bye.